Hello and welcome back to the Cartoonist Studio. Now I know that I didn't do one the last fortnight and I'm sorry about that, but things get very busy at certain times of the year and I had an extra influx of work coming in and it was just extremely difficult to tie that in with a YouTube video, and I wasn't really happy with the ideas I was coming up with. So I was forced to leave it, and I probably should have sent out a message, and I'm sorry that I didn't. But here we are, we're back again, and I'm going to do something I haven't done for a while, which is the Oodles of Doodles. I have a playlist at the moment. I think there's only 2 videos on there, so this will be the 3rd. For those who are new to the channel, the Oodles of Doodles are effectively me just drawing cartoons on a theme. They're sketches. They're not finished artwork by any stretch of the imagination. In actual fact, I don't even use a pencil. I draw them with a biro pen. So it's pretty much me as I would be if I was sitting downstairs watching TV. I just literally get a drawing pad out and I sketch something. But I try to do it in a theme. Now, this particular theme is my grandchildren were over today. I have them during the school summer holidays in the UK. I have them usually every Friday. So I had them here, and my one granddaughter wants to play football for, I'm not too sure what team she wants to play for, but she wants to play for her country when she's older. So she's really into the football. So I was out there practicing with her today. She plays in goal. She plays in most positions, but she likes playing in goal. So I was kicking the ball endlessly to her, and she was catching, and we were discussing it and talking about how best to be the best that you possibly can, I guess. So this video is dedicated to you, Livy. So I drew a lot of cartoon football stuff, a little bit about ladies football, a lot just about general football pictures, using my elasticated action style of cartoons. So if you like to study how a cartoon is produced, then this is always a good thing to follow. You just see how I produce these things. And other than that, that's the theme. And at the very end, I've just drawn a little picture of my granddaughter when she first took it up. She was a lot younger, a lot smaller, and very keen. One thing I will say about it is if she has an idea, she takes it. She absorbs it totally and throws herself into it. It's something that I can appreciate, because when I was her age before, younger than she is now, I was absorbed in this world of cartooning. So without further ado, once again, the final point on these Oodles of Doodles is you don't hear me talking a great deal. In fact, if anything at all, it's just the pictures and a bit of music, and you just get a chance to study without me waffling on in the background. So with that said, here we go, Oodles of Doodles. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe, as they always say. Do that as well. Right, bye-bye for now.